It was a Thursday. I remember because I had leftover pasta for lunch, again, and I was sitting in my car answering emails before heading back into work. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Elise. Just one line. No greeting. No punctuation. No soul. From now on, please communicate only through legal channels. That was it. No explanation. No warning. No fight. Just a cold, quiet line that sliced through 9 years of marriage like it meant nothing. I stared at it for a while, then read it again. And again. I thought maybe she was joking. Maybe she meant to. Send that to someone else, maybe anything else, but deep down, I knew. I knew this wasn't a mistake. You don't send a message like that unless you've already made up your mind, and probably told someone else before you told your spouse. I didn't text back. Instead, I looked out the windshield. The same parking lot I'd seen every day suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like I'd been dropped into a new world and didn't get the manual. People talk about heartbreak like it's loud, but mine didn't scream. It didn't crash or burn. It just went quiet, like someone flipped a switch and the person I thought I knew was gone. No argument, no tears, just delete, block, and good luck figuring it out. I called her twice. No answer. I called her mom, straight to voicemail, and then I checked. Our bank app saw 2 transfers out, one to a name I didn't recognize, the other, herself, a new account. That's when I understood. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned. I wasn't losing a marriage. I was walking into a legal war I didn't start, and maybe wasn't even supposed to survive. Most people think betrayal looks like screaming or slamming doors, but sometimes it looks like a quiet message and a new account. That night, I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I didn't text again. I opened my laptop and started reading about how to freeze joint assets. Because if she wanted to play this game like a transaction, then I would treat it like one. Not out of revenge, not out of hate. But because when someone erases you like a stranger, you learn to protect what they thought was already theirs. And while she expected panic, what she got instead was silence. And one frozen bank account. After I got that text from Elise, I didn't scream. I didn't call her again. I didn't fall apart. I opened my laptop and I got to work. First, I logged into the joint bank account. She had already pulled a chunk out. Not all of it, but enough to send a message. I clicked Freeze Account. Then I opened our credit card app. 2 new charges from that afternoon, one from a boutique downtown, one from a place that sells $400 spa packages. I reported the card. Had it. Locked. Then I emailed the mortgage provider, the utilities, the car lease. And just like that, everything stopped. No more auto pay. No more shared budget. No more open door access. I didn't leave a note. Didn't warn her. Didn't even sigh. Because this wasn't personal anymore. It was tactical. And if she wanted lawyers involved, then I wanted receipts. 2 hours later, her lawyer called. Not her. Him. Some guy named Grant, with a voice like maple syrup and a tone that assumed I was already losing. Carter, he began. We were surprised to find Elise's accounts locked. She no longer has access to basic funds. That seems retaliatory. I didn't argue, didn't explain. I just said, this wasn't retaliation, it was protection. He paused. Long enough for me to know he wasn't expecting calm. He was expecting chaos, emotion, regret. But I gave him math. Facts. The funds in that account were both our incomes. If she pulls out money without consulting me, that's not partnership. That's extraction. He cleared his throat. Elise said this wasn't about money. Then she should be fine waiting 72 hours until my financial advisor reviews everything. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to stop the bleeding. You see, betrayal isn't just emotional, it's logistical. It's spreadsheets, transaction logs, call histories. It's the quiet, fast things people do when they think you're not paying attention. So I paid attention to every dollar, every login, every password, because I wasn't going to be the guy who got gutted twice, once in his heart and once in his wallet. Was it cruel? Maybe. But so is sending a legal notice instead of a conversation. So is draining accounts without telling the person who helped fill them. People forget. Survival doesn't always look kind. Sometimes it looks like restraint, like action without anger, like defense without drama. Because the truth? I wasn't trying to win. I just didn't want to lose everything quietly. Was I being cold or just awake for the first time in years? If someone drew first blood but smiled while doing it, what would you do? Comment below. I'm not sure I did the right thing. What came next wasn't a legal letter. It wasn't an apology. It was an invoice for emotional damages. I walked into the law office wearing the same coat I'd worn every Monday for years. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Elise was already seated, her arms folded, her lawyer flipping through a slim folder like he'd already won. He didn't even look up when I sat down. "Let's keep this civil," he said, as if I was the problem. Sure, I didn't say much. I didn't need to, because the chair next to me didn't stay empty for long. My attorney, Lisa, arrived right on time, calm as a still lake. She didn't smile. She just opened her binder and said, "Let's begin." That's when things shifted. Elise blinked, surprised. I saw it. She wasn't expecting me to show up with someone like Lisa. Experienced, razor sharp, but quiet. The kind of quiet that made people lean in and then regret it. Her lawyer started with a list, a car, our shared apartment, reimbursement for rent since I'd left, half my retirement fund. And of course, that I cover her legal fees too. Lisa didn't even flinch. She slid a document across the table. "This is Carter's proof of separation, dated and notarized 5 weeks ago." 5 weeks. That stunned them, because Elise didn't realize I'd already left, not just physically, but legally. I'd been staying with a friend 2 cities over. My name had already been removed from our lease. Utility accounts split. Bank alerts set up. Everything logged. We had lived apart long enough that under the state's laws we were legally separated, even without her knowing. That meant her claims on joint expenses, not valid. That apartment, already reassigned. The car, registered in my name only. Retirement funds, protected under pre-existing agreements we both signed when we got married, back when she still loved me, and I trusted that. Elise's lawyer coughed. She looked over, clearly rattled. You moved out without telling me?" "No," I said simply. "I told you the day you sent that text." She remembered. I could see it in her face. Please communicate only through legal channels. She thought that line put her in control, but what it really did was free me. From that moment, I stopped being her husband. I became a file in her lawyer's inbox, so I treated her the same. Lisa kept going. She pulled out spreadsheets, proof of independent expenses, photos time-stamped from my new address, even receipts for moving boxes. Elise was quiet now. And her lawyer? He was flipping through papers faster than before, as if speed could fix what silence had unraveled. Then came the question that said everything. "What are you really after, Elise?" It wasn't hostile, just tired. Elise didn't answer, but I knew. She wasn't after justice. She was after power. She thought I'd crumble, that I'd chase, apologize, throw money at the problem to make it disappear. But I didn't. I prepared. She, weaponized surprise. I brought receipts. That day didn't end in yelling, or tears, or slamming doors. It ended in something more uncomfortable than all of that, silence. Because when someone realizes they're not in charge anymore, that the game they started is already over, they don't argue. They recalculate. We walked out of the office. Lisa leaned toward me and said quietly, "She underestimated you." I nodded. She always did. Elise wasn't done, not yet. But her next move didn't come from a court document. It came from Mandy. And a phone call I never saw coming. It was a Wednesday night, rain tapping on the windows. The kind of quiet that settles after you've stopped checking your phone, hoping for something, anything, that explains why the life you built just vanished. Then the phone rang. It was Mandy Elise's best friend, maid of honor at our wedding, the one who used to call me brother-in-law with a smirk. She was crying. "Carter, she's not okay." Her voice cracked like she had rehearsed this scene 100 times, said all the right things. "She didn't mean for things to go this far. You freezing the accounts, that broke her." I didn't say anything. "Carter, you were her whole world. She's falling apart. Please, maybe just talk to her. Don't let this end like this." But something felt off, not the tears. The timing, because Mandy hadn't called when Elise locked me out of my own shared accounts. When she told me, via text, to speak only through lawyers. Mandy didn't call when Elise froze me out. She called after I responded. That's when I started listening harder, and when she slipped up. "You should have never looked through the phone records," Mandy muttered, voice barely a whisper. I hadn't mentioned the records. Not once. But I had seen them. The day Elise texted me that legal-only line, she had called Mandy 4 times. 1 of them lasted almost an hour. And the day before that, Mandy had made a payment using the card Elise still had access to. A dinner reservation. For 2. So I asked calmly, "Did you tell her to send that message, Mandy?" Silence. And then a sigh. She needed to protect herself. You can be unpredictable. I almost laughed. I'd been predictable for 10 years. Predictable enough to always put gas in her car, always refill the orange juice, always double-check the locks. Unpredictable is what happened when I stopped accepting being the one who always bends. "Carter," she tried again, "I just don't want you to make this worse." Worse for who? That was the last thing I said before hanging up, because here's what I know now. Sometimes the person crying the loudest is the one who lit the match. And sometimes loyalty isn't friendship. It's leverage. And Mandy? She wasn't trying to help. She was trying to steer the fire away from herself. I checked the logs again that night, the purchases, the call records, the flights. Turns out Mandy booked a weekend trip 2 weeks before Elise told me it was over, a trip Elise never mentioned, a trip I was apparently paying for. They didn't expect me to trace it, but I did. And what I found wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. You ever been told you're the problem by the person holding the lighter? Yeah, me too. So I ask you, if your partner's best friend cried to you, would you believe them, or would you wonder what they're covering up? Let me know below, and stick around. Because what happens next is exactly why Mandy stopped calling. I got the email on a Monday morning. Subject line, confidential HR matter. I thought it was about my team's vacation schedule. It wasn't. Inside was a formal notice. Someone had submitted a complaint, anonymously. The words emotional, intimidation, retaliatory behavior, and hostile work environment jumped off the page. And then I saw it, allegedly filed by a former domestic partner. I closed the email. I didn't even breathe. Not because I was guilty, but because I knew exactly who sent it. Elise. This wasn't about safety. It was about power. And when control slips through someone's fingers, they don't always go down quietly. Sometimes they throw a grenade. I didn't call her, didn't respond, didn't even tell my closest coworker. Instead, I walked down the hall to HR, sat down across from Michelle, the head of the department. And I said, "Whatever you need from me, you'll have it in an hour." That was the difference between me and Elise. She was playing games. I was done playing. 3 days later, Michelle asked to meet again. This time she was holding a folder. She looked frustrated. "We looked into everything," she said. "Emails? Reviewed? Calendar invites? pulled, Slack messages, cross-referenced, security camera footage, archived and logged. Then she added one sentence I'll never forget. You were overly polite. If anything, too professional. And then came the twist. Michelle leaned in and said, the complaint was submitted from an IP address linked to a Gmail account that also accessed your shared Amazon Prime profile. My stomach dropped. That account? It was Elise's, the same one we used to stream movies on our old TV. She never logged out. She left a digital fingerprint right next to the popcorn history. The complaint was marked unsubstantiated. No action was taken, no warnings, no follow-up. Needed. But the damage? That's not something you measure in write-ups. It's in raised eyebrows, in conversations that go quiet when you walk in the break room, in trust that takes years to build and seconds to burn. Michelle didn't judge me, but she did say something I keep thinking about. This stuff, it changes people. Just make sure it doesn't change you. And she was right. Because I felt it. That slow burn of bitterness rising in my chest, that temptation to lash out, to get even, but I didn't. Instead, I did what Elise didn't think I would. I waited. Because some battles aren't won in court or in emails, they're won by not taking the bait. And Elise? She baited the wrong person. She thought this would ruin me, but she forgot. When you lie on record and tech is involved, the truth has receipts. Where's the line between protecting yourself and weaponizing the system? Do you think anonymous accusations should require proof before action? Or is the risk of silence greater? Drop your thoughts below. I'm listening. Quiet strength always finds its voice. I remember the sound of the clock more than anything else that morning. Tick, tick, tick. It was the first hearing. Elise walked in like she was auditioning for sympathy. Hair loose, jacket too big, no makeup, tissues in hand. She looked fragile, like someone the court needed to rescue. And maybe that's what she thought would happen. Her attorney opened with urgency. She's struggling, Your Honor. She hasn't had access to funds. She's concerned about losing her car, her home, her ability to maintain even a basic standard of living. We're requesting immediate financial relief. They wanted temporary spousal support. Fast. Retroactive. I didn't say a word. I didn't look at Elise, didn't roll my eyes, didn't whisper to my lawyer. I just waited. The judge turned to them. Do you have a current financial statement to support this request? Her lawyer hesitated. We've had limited access to information, Your Honor. My client doesn't control the accounts. The judge blinked once. And yet she wants money. From accounts she hasn't shown exist in her name? He didn't sound annoyed. He sounded bored. My lawyer stood. Calm, casual. The kind of calm that only comes when you know you're holding every card. Your Honor, we'd like to submit Exhibits A through F. He handed over a folder. Inside were my bank statements from the last 90 days, a notarized lease agreement proving I'd been living separately for over 6 weeks, a full audit showing. Elise had charged $7,200 to our shared card after our separation, and the kicker, security footage logs from the house motion sensor timestamps, clear records showing I hadn't stepped foot in the property after I moved out. But Elise, in and out. Parties, friends, no signs of financial hardship. None. The judge read silently. His brow lifted, then he looked at Elise. You stated he locked you out and left you with nothing. Yet you remained in the marital home, used shared funds, and hosted guests on multiple occasions? Elise swallowed. Her lawyer leaned in, whispered. She shook her head. That's when the judge spoke again. Quiet, firm. This isn't a case of financial abandonment. It's a case of narrative inflation. I could feel her panic start to rise, her foot tapping, her hands trembling slightly. Then she spoke for the first time. I didn't know he was keeping all these records. I thought we could just talk this out. Talk this out? After you sent a lawyer before a text? My lawyer didn't laugh, but he smiled. The kind that says, this was too easy. The judge closed the file. Temporary support is denied. This court will proceed based on verifiable records only. Elise didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared, like she couldn't believe the story in her head. Didn't hold up in real life. And here's the thing. I didn't win because I yelled louder. I didn't bring witnesses or character letters. I didn't destroy her in some dramatic showdown. I just showed the truth. Clean. Simple. Quiet. Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. It just shows up with receipts. Ever seen someone build a case off fiction? Drop a comment below? Or share a time the truth did all the talking for you? Because just when I thought the drama had peaked, I opened a forgotten email folder, and that's when Mandy's secret came out. It started with a folder I almost deleted. You know the kind. Those automated promotions tabs where airline offers and shopping discounts go to die. I wasn't even looking for anything, just trying to clear my inbox. But then I saw it. A confirmation. Email from Delta, not mine. Not a flight I booked, but somehow paid with my card. 2 first-class tickets, round trip, Atlanta to Cancun. And the date? It was while I was in Denver, at a conference. Elise knew I'd be gone. She also knew Mandy was my assistant, the one who handled my travel, my schedule, my inbox. Apparently, Mandy also handled a little more than that. I opened the full receipt, the names on the tickets, Elise Matthews, Mandy Scott. And just like that, everything clicked. You know that moment your stomach drops before your brain catches up? I just sat there, staring at the screen, not angry, not confused, just frozen, like I was watching someone else's life implode. I remembered when I first gave Elise that secondary card, she said it was just for emergencies. But Mexico with my assistant wasn't an emergency, unless the emergency was me. I forwarded the email to my attorney with just 4 words. Tell me it's enough. An hour later, I got his reply. It's more than enough. Mandy's getting a subpoena. Here's the thing. Cheating's one thing, but using my money to do it, that's a different game. You don't get to betray someone and expense it. You don't get to destroy a marriage and treat it like a vacation package. Mandy thought she was slick. She deleted the confirmation from my main inbox, but forgot it. Also, went to the cardholder's email. Forgot I own that card. Forgot my attorney doesn't just fight, he builds timelines. Within a day, she got her notice. Subpoena to appear. Civil court, fraud, financial misconduct, and co-conspiracy to misuse marital funds. When Elise found out, she called me. First time she tried to speak directly since the lawyers got involved. Her voice was shaky. Carter, you don't have to go this far. Mandy didn't mean. I didn't let her finish. Was it her idea to book the suite or yours? Silence. Then I asked one more thing. Did you love her more than you hated me? She hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was sad, but because I realized how close I came to letting it all slide. If I hadn't opened that folder, if I'd deleted it on autopilot, they would have gotten away with it. And Elise, she would have told the court she needed money while sipping margaritas in Cancun. The subpoena didn't go viral. There were no screaming matches or social media call-outs, but inside the courtroom, it changed everything. Because now, Elise's character was under scrutiny, and Mandy's credibility, gone. Even the judge looked surprised when he read the exhibit. You used marital funds for a vacation with your husband's employee? Elise didn't speak, she just shrank. Like a balloon finally out of air. Ever found out something shocking by accident? Drop it in the comments. Your story might just help someone else feel less alone, and if you've made it this far, subscribe. The truth's just getting started. Because after all the lies, the receipts, the courtroom drama, the thing that gutted me the most was something Elise never said. And that silence? spoke louder than any affair. It was a plain manila envelope, no dramatic cover, no threats in bold, just a simple label. Settlement proposal. Matthews vs. Matthews. Inside, everything was clear, no fluff, no emotion, just facts. A clean divorce, no spousal support, no claims. To my business, my pension, or the house I bought before we married. The credit cards? Canceled. The assets? Divided fairly, but with one condition. She walks away with what's hers, not what she tried to take behind my back. And if she didn't, sign? Well, then everything we'd gathered, the receipts, the travel logs, the subpoena for Mandy, would go public in court filings. Fraud isn't a buzzword. It's a legal charge. Some people think justice is loud, but sometimes it's just a quiet envelope. Delivered by courier. I didn't send it with anger. I sent it with closure. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But not the kind where I play dead to keep things civil. No. This was a different peace. The kind that comes when you've seen the full picture, and you're finally done pretending parts of it didn't exist. My attorney said it best. You're not ending a marriage, you're ending a pattern. He was right. I had spent too long trying to be reasonable, trying to meet in the middle, with someone who was always moving the middle further and further away. So this wasn't about Elise anymore. This was about me finally drawing a line that didn't move. The offer was fair, generous even, considering the circumstances, and it wasn't just typed out in lawyer speak. I wrote a note, handwritten. Just one sentence. I hope this helps you start over the right way, not the easy way. 3 days passed. No response, no calls, no counteroffers. On the 4th morning, my lawyer texted, she signed. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just a signature on the dotted line, and somehow, that was enough. Ever walked away from something without needing to hear sorry? Tell me below. I think more people need to know it's okay to move on without closure. And if this part hit home, subscribe. Because the quietest wins are often the ones worth sharing. I won't lie. A part of me expected her to fight back, to drag it out, to twist the story. But maybe she finally saw what she couldn't undo. Maybe she knew the evidence spoke louder than either of us ever could. Or maybe she just didn't have the energy to keep lying anymore. When people ask me now, what finally made her fold? I say this. It wasn't the subpoena. It wasn't the credit card trail. It wasn't even the cheating. It was the fact that, for once, I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't chase. I just presented the truth and waited. That's what scared her. Not what I said, but what I didn't need to say anymore. Because even though the paperwork was signed, even though the legal ties were cut, Elise would learn that freedom doesn't mean forgetting, and some names stay on paper longer than people expect. People expected fireworks, some dramatic post, some public takedown, but I didn't post anything, didn't comment, didn't even change my relationship status. I just moved on. One quiet day at a time. Elise had the house now. She wanted it so badly. She fought tooth and nail for it. I let her have it. But the title, the deed, still had my name. She could live there, but she couldn't sell it, refinance it, or claim it was fully hers. And I didn't remind her of that. She'd figure it out when. It mattered. That was enough. Some people think revenge is fire, a loud, explosive thing. But sometimes, revenge is a document, a line in a contract, a name that stays. Even when you've left the room, a month passed. I didn't say anything to our mutual friends, didn't tell them what she did, didn't need to. They had their own eyes. They saw who. Disappeared when things got hard. They saw who stayed quiet, and people talk. One afternoon, I got a screenshot. Elise had posted a story. Karma hits hard. Black background. White text. Nothing else. No mention of me. But everyone knew. I didn't reply, didn't call her out, didn't even open the message. Because peace, it isn't silence, it's control. It's knowing I could say something, but choosing not to. It's realizing she still needed an audience, still needed a reaction, and I didn't need any of that. Had my name back, my life back, and the calm that comes when you stop trying to convince people of who you are. The truth has a strange way of sticking around long after the shouting stops, long after the filters fade. Some friends reached out. They wanted details. They wanted my side. But I only ever said this. She and I are just on different chapters now. That was it, because I didn't need to be right. I just needed to be done. And when you finally stop waiting for closure, that's when it shows up. Not with a bang, not with a parade, but with a quiet day, when no one's watching, and you realize your heart feels light again. That's the real ending, not fireworks, just closure. What would you do if your kindness was used against you? It took me a year to ask that question out loud. A full 12 months of silence, of rebuilding, of reminding myself that just because someone breaks your trust doesn't mean they get to take your voice with them. This isn't about dragging Elise. I'm not here to paint her as a villain or to get people on my side. I'm not angry anymore. But I do have questions. Because when you're in love, you protect the other person. You make excuses for them. You believe the best over and over until believing starts to cost you your peace. And when it finally breaks, when the protection you gave becomes a shield, they used to hurt you. You wonder where the line was, when it stopped being love and started being survival. There were nights I stared at the ceiling wondering if I had spoken up sooner. Would things have been different? If I had drawn the line earlier? If I had stopped covering for her? But every time I think about it, I land in the same place. Silence isn't weakness. It's choosing not to let someone else's chaos rewrite who you are. There's this moment I keep coming back to. We were at a friend's wedding a few years back. The groom had forgotten his vows at home. Panic everywhere. People whispering, staff scrambling. And Elise? She walked up to him, smiled, and handed him a blank napkin. Then she said, "Start from the part where you knew she was different." Everyone clapped later, said she saved the day. But that's who she was. Charming in the room, sharp when needed, and I loved that version of her, so much that I ignored what came after. But charm without care is just strategy. And I didn't realize until too late that some people don't lie with words. They lie with kindness, with gestures, with timing. When Elise cried during the mediation, I stayed silent. When she accused me of being cold, I didn't defend myself. And when people asked why I looked so calm, I just said, "I'm tired." But calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just discipline. It's having every reason to explode and choosing not to. I'm not telling this story because I want applause. I'm telling it because I wish someone had said it to me sooner. That being kind doesn't mean being blind. That protecting someone doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. So here it is. My line in the sand. Not to blame, but to breathe. Because healing isn't loud. It doesn't come with confetti. It comes with quiet moments like this, where you say, finally, this is what happened. This is what I learned. So I'll end with a question. In love, when does protection become cruelty? And when does silence become strength? Comment your thoughts. I'm not here to be right, I just needed to speak.